These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. I like all my kisses, friend when I'm on my champagne. Everybody turn around taking them big cause I'm on my champagne. And I'm throwing them hits on my champagne. And keep throwing them hits cause I'm on my champagne. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. I like all my kisses, friend when I'm on my champagne. Everybody turn around taking them big cause I'm on my champagne. And I'm throwing them hits on my champagne. And keep throwing them hits cause I'm on my champagne. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. I like all my kisses, friend when I'm on my champagne. Everybody turn around taking them big cause I'm on my champagne. And I'm throwing them hits on my champagne. And keep throwing them hits cause I'm on my champagne. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. I like all my kisses, friend when I'm on my champagne. Everybody turn around taking them big cause I'm on my champagne. And I'm throwing them hits on my champagne. And keep throwing them hits cause I'm on my champagne. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. I like all my kisses, friend when I'm on my champagne. Everybody turn around taking them big cause I'm on my champagne. And I'm throwing them hits on my champagne. And keep throwing them hits cause I'm on my champagne. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money. I like all my kisses, friend when I'm on my champagne. Everybody turn around taking them big cause I'm on my champagne. And I'm throwing them hits on my champagne. And keep throwing them hits cause I'm on my champagne. These niggas about to make a whole lot of money.
Scoot up for a second and let's talk. Yo, DJ, roll that beautiful champagne footage.
For your invitation, to experience the clink, the chaos, and all of the empowerment you desire.
There's a secret in the bottle, the bottle, the bottle.
I just can't get a little clink with chaos, you know we got some. Hella hood with class, baby, I'm doing one. Come sip and savor so we can spill some. And if you lost your way, we'll leave the light on.
There's a secret in the bottle, the bottle, the bottle.
I just can't get enough.
Champagne secrets. Champagne gang, FizzFam, Confidante. Welcome to the chalet located in Champagne City, baby. How y'all doing today? Drop some champagne glasses in the chat to let me know that you're okay. While I work out these little technical difficulties. I told y'all it's crazy doing all of this being one person, but it's all good. How are y'all on this Friday night? Is the weather right? Are you feeling all right? I hope you took out some time today to affirm yourself, to tell yourself what about you you're grateful for, to make you feel good about being you, from the top of your head to the sole of your feet, to the curve of your lips and everything in between. You are special. You are wonderful. And you better know it. Fellas, pop your collar. Ladies, put your hands on your hip and let your backbone slip. Take it to the east and to the west, honey. Take it to the one that you love the best, and it better be you. Huh? I hope your day was doing well. Now, y'all tell me something. Which champagne room should we be in today? Should it be this one or this one? Put a 1 in the chat for this one. Put a 2 in the chat for this one. Which champagne room should we gather in within the chalet? Da, 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 da. I'm going to pause a little bit because, you know, there's a delay between the live and when y'all actually get it. So I'm going to pause. Clarence Carter, too. Are you saying number 2, progressive one? So let's go with champagne room number 2. Here we go. Nevaeh, I saw you in the chat. You going 1 or 2? I see 2 twos. Okay, so this is going to be our champagne room for the night. So y'all listen. If y'all don't know, I'm into all things investigation discovery, right? Like, I think I'm a low-key sleuth, like low-key. That sometime they should call me to try to put together some of these crimes, right? So I have another channel that's devoted to all things murder and all things mystery, but it's done like an old murder mystery noir theater, right? With the sound of rain and all of that in the background. And mostly over there, I deal with unsolved cases that are kind of mysterious, that you kind of know who did it, but they never proved who did it, but the clues lead to who did it, you know. So it's done like that, but the way those videos are done, they're not done for interaction. So what I said I was going to do is, so today, Champagne Gang, we're going to put on our detective hats and we're going to step into the Noir Syndicate. And when you're in the Noir Syndicate, we're not the Champagne Gang, we're the shadow hunters, because we're delving into the shadows of the past to uncover secrets that they thought they hid, right? So I ran across this story of this girl named Rebecca Zahau. And I covered it on my other channel, the Inky Noir Champagne Mysteries, right? So when I covered this story, it blew me away. And y'all are going to get to see today, like, a lot of what goes into when I do these stories. Even if you like my Hennessy Zone sector of the channel, when I cover those crimes, I do a lot of research. So I'm never going to just hear a story and just start reporting it. No, I got to know background. I got to know what the laws are. I got to know what the police said, what they did, what they didn't do. I got to look to see if there's witness statements. Like, I got to have the all around story. See, I told you I'm a low-key sleuth. So today you're going to get to see, like, what I really do to get those stories, because we're going to get into this story. I'm going to let you hear what I did on Inky Noir in covering the story and what happened with this case, because it's absolutely insane. And then at the end, we're going to listen to the 911 call as well, because I found that actually today. So we're going to listen to the 911 call after we hear the full story. And then we're going to do some investigation. I'm going to open up the panel. And if you guys want to come up and let me know what you think about the story and who you think did it and why, then you're more than willing to do so. So if you're ready, let's get ready to get into it now. Rebecca Zahau, a tale veiled in darkness and intrigue. As we explore the events of September 2nd, 2011, when San Diego Sheriff Bill Gore concluded the death of Rebecca Zahau a suicide and the younger Max Shacknai an accident. Prepare to be drawn into the enigma. So grab your favorite glass of champagne. Make sure your doors are secure and cozy up, for the secrets we're about to uncover are as chilling as they are captivating. Step into the Noir Syndicate to unravel this twisted tale that we call Rebecca Zahau, Fate or Fury. You know, I had to pause. I see the gang showing up in the house. Hey, Niecy B101, boo. How you doing tonight? So today, sweetie, the Champagne gang are putting on our detective hats, and we are stepping into the Noir Syndicate. And today we are shadow hunters. So I need y'all to drop some hashtag shadow hunters in the chat, because with this story, what we're going to do is we're going to listen to what happened. We're going to go over the clues in the case. And after we go over the clues in the case, then we're going to open up the panel and see if we can figure out who done it and why. All right? So let's get back into it. This is Inky Noir, Champagne Mysteries. Hello, Shadow Hunters, architects of intrigue and guardians of mystery. Welcome to the Noir Syndicate, where we will delve deep into the shadows of the past to uncover secrets long buried. Join us now as we journey through the twists and turns of the enigmatic tales surrounding Rebecca Zahau, Max Shacknai, and Jonah Shacknai. Rebecca Zahau, born on March 15, 1979, hailed from Burmese immigrant roots, originating from Phalum, Chin State, a town nestled in the Chin Hills of northwestern Burma. Her parents were Kwa Hni Thong and Zong Tin Par. Zahau's journey led her through Nepal and Germany before settling in the United States approximately a decade prior to her passing. In 2008, Zahau entered a relationship with Jonah Shacknai, the CEO of Medicis Pharmaceutical. I'm pressing pause for a second. Nisi, I just got your cash app for the $10. I'm going to send it back to you only because what I did was when we were talking the other day about the other streaming site that I was setting up. I actually finally got that set up. And what I want to do is start having our champagne conversations over there. Hold on one second, y'all. I'm sorry, it's a lot going on in the background. What I want to do is start having our panels done over there. And so I cut out the $10 membership. So the highest membership right now is the $4.99. So I'm gonna send your 10 back to you so that you can click out, hit the join button, and then the highest tier you'll see is will be the one for the $4.99. And then when I fully have the other one set up, I'll drop the link for that so you guys can go over there. So it'll be $4.99 over here, $4.99 over there, and then that'll make the 10 total. I figured that one would make more sense. All right, back to the show. Despite being married to Nalipa, Sheknai's prominence in the Medicis earned him the distinction of the ninth highest paid CEO in Arizona, with a hefty $6.4 million income in 2010. His personal life was marked by 2 prior marriages, the first to Kimberly James, which ended in divorce, followed by a contentious 3-year custody battle over their 2 children. His second marriage to Dina Romano resulted in a son, Maxfield Aaron, Max for short, Sheknai, born June 7, 2005. So what exactly kicked off the series of tragic events that ended with 32-year-old Zahau's controversial death? The sequence of events commenced with an episode involving 6-year-old Maxfield Sheknai, affectionately known as Max, the son of Zahau's affluent partner, Jonah Sheknai, the visionary behind Medicis Pharmaceutical Corp. Zahau and Jonah had been in a relationship for 2 years, cohabitating in a sprawling beachfront estate nestled in Coronado, a picturesque resort city perched on San Diego Bay in California. On July 11, Zahau found herself caring for Max while her 13-year-old sister Zena was also present in the expansive 27-room residence. Zahau recounted being in the downstairs bathroom when a sharp noise caught her attention, which she initially interpreted as either a collision or the barking of a dog, as described in Town and Country's detailed report. Upon investigating, Zahau discovered Max lying injured near the staircase landing, with scattered soccer balls and a scooter nearby, seemingly indicating a fall from the mansion's second-floor railing. Notably, a chandelier lay on the ground beside him, as detailed in the police records. In a curious twist, Max's biological mother, Dina Sheknai, confided in journalist Sean Elder, who penned the Town and Country piece, revealing her deliberate choice to relocate to Coronado due to its reputation for safety, as recounted to the producers of the Oxygen Network's Death at the Mansion, Rebecca Zahau. Indeed, Elder characterized Coronado Island as a tranquil little island paradise. The investigation into Max's tragic demise, handled by the Coronado Police Department, concluded that it was an accident. Commander Mike Lawton of the Coronado Police detailed that Max seemed to have lost his balance while running down a hallway near the top of the stairs on July 11. In a vivid presentation outlining the fall's trajectory. Lawton indicated that Max may have collided with or attempted to grab a chandelier before striking a banister on a landing, ultimately crashing to the floor below. Although the exact cause of Max's fall remained unknown, Lawton mentioned the discovery of a soccer ball and the family dog near the stairs. Tragically, 5 days after the incident, Max succumbed to the brain damage resulting from his injuries. Deputy Medical Examiner Jonathan Lucas reported that Max suffered multiple facial fractures and a severe spinal cord injury, which substantially impacted his heart rate and breathing. Compounding the tragedy, before Max's death was even confirmed, Rebecca herself passed away. 3 days prior to Max's demise, authorities found Rebecca's lifeless body on the grass in the mansion's rear courtyard, as documented in the San Diego Sheriff's Department investigative report. On July 12, 2011, Zahau saw Zena off to the airport for her flight to Missouri, and then picked up Jonah Shacknai's brother, Adam, who had just arrived from Memphis, Tennessee. That evening, Zahau, Jonah, and Adam shared dinner with a friend named Howard. Zahau and Adam returned home afterward, while Jonah remained at Max's bedside with the child's mother, Dina Romano, before eventually leaving to recuperate at a nearby Ronald McDonald house. Reports indicated the presence of loud music emanating from the beach house later that night. On the morning of July 13th, around 6:45 a.m., Adam made a harrowing discovery. Zahau's nude body hanging from a balcony, her wrists and ankles bound, her hands secured behind her back. He swiftly alerted emergency services via 911 at 6:48 a.m. and notified his brother via text message. Adam took the initiative to cut down Zahau's body before the authorities arrived. Despite the medics' efforts to revive her, Zahau was pronounced deceased at the scene. Police promptly initiated forensic and toxicology examinations as part of the autopsy to ascertain the cause of death. While suspicions of foul play arose early in the investigation, no DNA besides Zahau's was found on the scene. In a chilling detail from the report, Zahau was discovered nude, her limbs bound with red rope, and additional red rope was tied around her neck, along with a blue cloth. Adam Shacknai claimed to have found her hanging and explained to the officials that he had moved a wooden table to reach her and cut her down. Adding to the perplexity of the situation, a cryptic message in black paint was found on one of the mansion's interior doors. It read, "She saved him. Can he save her?" as documented in a San Diego Sheriff's Department report. In a video presentation, investigators demonstrated how Zahau could have tied her hands behind her back using the same binding material found at the scene. The technique allowed her to slip one hand in and out of the ligature while keeping the other secured. When ready, she could place both hands behind her back and into the binding. Reports suggested that just before 11 a.m. on July 13th, Zahau, alone in the residence, began to execute her plan. The exact sequence of events remains elusive, but at some point, She disrobed and tied one end of the rope to the bed's footboard, fashioning a noose at the other end, which she placed around her neck after cinching it. She then secured her ankles together. Moving onto the small balcony, she positioned her hands behind her back, creating the binding, and leaned over the railing. The fall measured 9 feet. Failing to break her neck, she lost consciousness within 15 seconds and succumbed about 20 minutes later. Dr. Jonathan Lucas from the medical examiner's office, who conducted Zahau's autopsy, noted a significant detail. Her hand still clutched the end of the rope used to bind her wrist tightly. Zahau's DNA was discovered on the knots of the ropes and on one of the knives utilized to cut it. Black paint residue was found on both of her hands and the rope. Additionally, her fingerprints were identified on the paint tube and the second knife. Traces of her foot and heel prints were discerned in the dust of the balcony. Zahau left enigmatic parting words on the bedroom door of the Coronado mansion. She saved him. Can he save her? The autopsy results unveiled 4 instances of head trauma, sparking various interpretations from the investigators and outside experts. San Diego medical examiner Jonathan Lucas speculated that the non-vertical position in which Zahau went over the balcony may have caused her head to strike against it during the fall. Forensic expert Werner Spitz suggested a similar possibility, while forensic consultant Dr. Maurice Godwin expressed skepticism regarding the scenario. A second autopsy, conducted by pathologist Dr. Cyril Wecht at the family's behest, raised doubts about the initial findings. Wecht proposed that the fractures in Zahau's throat were indicative of manual strangulation rather than suicidal hanging, leading him to conclude her death was a homicide. The family's attorney highlighted other inaccuracies in the sheriff department's investigation, including evidence suggesting possible sexual assault before Zahau's demise. Family members questioned why Zahau's hands and feet were bound. San Diego Sheriff Roy Frank cited instances where individuals secured themselves to prevent changing their minds about suicide. Police reenacted the scenario to assess its feasibility, demonstrating a woman binding her hands behind her back with a rope similar to the one Zahau held. A painted message on the door leading to the balcony read, "She saved him. Can he save her?" further deepened the mystery. While initially not confirmed by the officials as a suicide note, it was interpreted as such by investigators. However, Zahau's handwriting, her artistic hobby, and discrepancies noted by her family cast doubt on its authenticity. In efforts to piece together Zahau's final hours, police obtained cell phone records revealing communications with her sister and a message regarding Max's accident, purportedly from Jonah Shacknai. Yet the contents of the latter message remained unknown, as it was deleted before investigation. Initially, investigators refrained from powering up or operating Zahau's cell phone to avoid potentially erasing evidence stored in its memory. Instead, they sought forensic software tailored to the phone's model. By August 15th, Failing to locate such technology, a detective activated the phone manually, discovering the voicemail was not retained. Despite this, they did not pursue AT&T's assistance in retrieving the deleted message from its servers. Subsequently, on September 21st, an investigator announced plans to utilize new technology to copy the phone's data for further analysis. Following a second examination in October, investigators disclosed no additional findings and prepared to return the phone to Zahau's family. During Max's treatment, police consulted with a clinical social worker, Ray Teetsworth, at Rady Children's Hospital, who remarked on the unusual nature of Max's case due to his cardiac arrest post-fall, as per police reports obtained by Oxygen.com. In 2018, a civil jury held Adam Shacknai legally accountable for Zahau's death, though he was never criminally charged. Throughout the civil trial, arguments presented by Greer alleged that Shacknai assaulted Zahau, strangled her, and staged her hanging to appear as a suicide. Shacknai denied these accusations, with his attorney asserting the absence of evidence supporting his involvement beyond his presence at the property at the time of Zahau's death. Following the civil verdict, the family urged the sheriff's department to investigate the case as a homicide. After an extensive 8-month review, the department concluded once more that there was insufficient evidence to suggest Zahau's death was anything but a suicide. Subsequently, Greer and the family redirected their focus towards the medical examiner's office. A petition forwarded to the office contested Zahau's death ruling, citing a wealth of evidence and expert analysis indicating foul play. This evidence included expert testimony pointing to the potential scene cleanup, similarities between knots used in Zahau's binding and Shacknai's professional knotting expertise, and handwriting consistency between Shacknai and the door message. Adam Shacknai recounted to investigators finding Zahau hanging from the mansion's second-story balcony on July 13, 2011. He promptly called 911, retrieved a knife from the kitchen to cut her down, and attempted CPR in an effort to revive her. San Diego County Sheriff Bill Gore in 2011 declared Max's death a tragic accident and Zahau's death a suicide, dismissing the notion of criminal conduct in both cases. Shadow Hunters, journey with me into the shadows of queries and speculation. How does the sound of a falling boy resemble that of a barking dog? Shadow Hunters, ponder this peculiar auditory mystery. How did the scattered soccer balls and scooter end up atop Max's leg if he purportedly fell off the banister? A puzzle for the sleuths among us. Can one truly run and flip over a banister without any indication of structural failure? A perplexing conundrum indeed. Why was Rebecca found lying on the lawn before authorities arrived? Could this relocation be linked to the tampering with evidence, or does it hide a deeper truth? What purpose did the loud music serve on the fateful night? A curious coincidence or a deliberate distraction from impeding events. She saved him. Can he save her? Delve into the enigmatic depths of this cryptic message, shadow hunters. Who is the savior and who the saved? How could Zahau's ankles be tied while she purportedly made her way to the balcony? A tantalizing question for the astute investigator. In a case laden with DNA evidence, how can one discern truth from manipulation? Shadow hunters, tread carefully through this maze of evidence. The absence of a suicide note and the presence of head trauma raise doubts. Can a death truly be labeled suicide in the face of such contradictions? Did power and privilege play a role in shaping the investigation's outcome? Explore the shadows of influence that loom over this perplexing case. Why was the deleted voicemail message left unexplored? A tantalizing hint lost in the digital ethers awaits discovery by astute investigators. Shadow hunters, as you ponder these enigmatic questions, the truth lies obscured in the shadows, awaiting those brave enough to uncover it. In the hushed corridors of justice, where shadows of doubt loom large, one final question remains suspended in the air, begging for resolution amidst the swirling mists of uncertainty. As the curtain falls on this saga of tragedy and intrigue, we are left to wonder, was justice truly served, or did the truth become entangled in a web of power and privilege? In the echoing halls of the mind, where whispers of conspiracy linger, the story of Rebecca Zahau and Max Shacknai reaches its dramatic crescendo. Yet, as the final credits roll and the curtain drops, the enigmatic riddle of their fates remains shrouded in darkness, awaiting the intrepid souls brave enough to venture into the depths of mystery and unravel the secrets that lie within. So, shadow hunters, as we exit the labyrinthine corridors of intrigue and deception in the Noir Syndicate, let us raise a glass to the fallen and toast to the enigma of inky noir champagne mysteries, where truth is the elusive prize and justice the final destination. Good night. So what do y'all think? What do y'all think about this story? This story was great. When I ran across this story, I was completely outdone because it's got so much. Number one, I know this mansion has to have tons of transient energy. Has to. Because it started off with the death of the little boy, which was ruled an accident. But I'm not understanding how it's an accident. Yeah, I don't get that. How do you flip over a banister, hit the banister, grab hold to the chandelier, pull the chandelier down, have toys laying on top of you, and the banister isn't broken, but the chandelier what? Like 2 + 2 doesn't equal 4. And then with her situation, how exactly do you put a noose around your own neck after you've already tied your hands behind your back in a fancy knot? after you've already put a t-shirt down your throat and then walk to the banister and throw yourself over. Like, 2 + 2 has to equal 4, and I'm getting 10. Is anybody else getting 10 in both of these stories? Drop some champagne glasses in the chat if you're getting 10. Let me read through some of these comments. Take this chair from the mic and feed in Yeshua's name. I know that's right, Nisi B. Definitely protect the chat from any transient energy. Some family be having curses for real. Be passing along generations. Absolutely. Satan and his demons putting in work. You know it all the time. Because this is crazy. And this is another reason why you have to be careful with who you attach to and who you decide to link up with and hook up with and call your boo, who you decide to give your body to. You got to be careful because you don't know what these people are into. You don't know what's attached to what you're trying to attach to. You got to learn how to protect yourself. That's why we have so many conversations about sex, because people think it's all about a feeling. It's all about feeling good. No, it's a whole lot attached to that y'all not paying attention to. People become obsessed from sexual encounters because there's a spiritual realm that goes along with being intimate with someone. You're giving yourself to them. They're giving their selves to you. If you're a man, you're imparting into her. If you're a woman, you're taking from him into you. There's an impartation either way it goes. There are bonds and connectivity that happens when you're intimate with someone on more than just a natural level. So that's why you got to be careful who you attach to, who you allow into you, to plant into you, who you're releasing your seed into. Because whether or not you decide, whether or not a baby comes out of it, a man is still releasing seed. That's what's in his semen. So who are you releasing seed into? Are they worthy? Are they psycho? Is this person not going to know how to walk away afterwards? Are they going to be hiding in your bushes, peeping in your windows? Are you going to have to come outside to busted windows and slashed tires because of a moment of fun? We got to be careful. This girl married into, well, they weren't married, they were dating. This girl moved into this family. So I saw this clip and I wanted to show it to you. And they're going to have this conversation about who Rebecca was. So take a look at this real quick.
Really appreciated being able to get to know Rebecca as a person, not as this image that you saw in the media, which were these, glamour shots of her, very beautiful, striking woman. But that was it. You never heard more about who she was, which is actually very important when you investigate a case like this. And so I talked to Mary, her sister, and some other people that knew her from childhood, and they talked about how she was a very loving, giving, caretaking type person, a protector. She always was very active and wanting to take care of everyone. She was very accomplished. She started out in Burma, and then her father was actually taken as a political prisoner. And so when he was released, the family moved to Germany and lived there. She went to Austria to be educated. She spoke 6 languages. She came to this country and was very focused on her career. She was a very accomplished woman and right there in the prime of her life. I think when you're looking at the question of what really happened here, was this a suicide? Could she have done this? Would she have done this? And if not, what else could have happened? I think you need to be able to be empathetic to who Rebecca was. And being a woman, and looking at where she was in her life, the relationships in her life, how she was feeling about different people in her life, how she was feeling about her own place in her life. Women bring that perspective. Just the fact that you talk about a person, a woman, taking all of her clothes off, binding her feet, binding her hands, and then throwing herself over a balcony in a very public place. I think every woman out there that you say that to, can you ever imagine doing that to yourself? So degrading, so humiliating. They'll all say no. A woman will say there's just no way. A woman's going to do that willingly to herself.
What is different about Oxygen's look into Rebecca Zahau's case?
I think our look into this case is unique because of the team that we put together. First of all, I was a criminal prosecutor for 18 years in Los Angeles, so I know how to investigate a case, how to evaluate a case, and what kind of evidence you need to actually file criminal charges. But beyond that, I was actually covering this case as a legal commentator right when it broke. I remember hearing about the case, and I immediately had a very strong reaction to it. What happened here? What happened to this person? And I was very interested to see where the investigation went. And when it ended up being ruled a suicide, I was surprised based on the information, very limited information that we had. I kept waiting for someone to do further investigation, or we would hear more facts or something to support that. And the years went by and nothing ever changed. And I think people across the country had the same question, because even now, all these years later, if you mention Rebecca's name, people say, oh yeah, that case, you know, what do you think really happened there? So I have a personal connection, I think, to the case in that I felt very strongly connected to Rebecca. My partner in this is Billy Judson, who is a crime journalist and a victim's advocate, and he has been able to use social media to help solve some crimes, and so he has a unique perspective into this investigation.
For most cases that you see, you'll see a little tiny paragraph in the newspaper. Some will get bigger stories, some will get 5 minutes on the news, some will get an hour. It's only a handful of cases that get more than 1 hour. This case has gotten 4 hours of investigative relook by 3 people coming at it from 3 different ways. And I wouldn't have done this without having Lonnie and having a former prosecutor, because there's 2 different ways to go at it. There might be a way saying, you know what, this is a suicide, and that's it, and we're going to try and prove it's a suicide, which is what the San Diego Sheriff's Department did. There's another way that says, you know what, this is probably a homicide, we're going to call it undetermined, but we're never going to be able to convict anybody.
We ended up talking to Paul Holes, and he is well known for the work he did on the Golden State Killer case. And he brings a wonderful expertise to his evaluation.
Immediately, it stood out that there's something wrong here. You know, I've responded out to suicide scenes, and I've never had a suicide scene look like this.
What are some of the questions that still bother you?
You know, there were a lot of questions going in. And as we dug into it, some questions were answered, not necessarily the way I expected them to. And then more questions came out. And I think as the viewer goes through this process, that might happen to them too. There might be some questions answered and there might be more that pop up.
Billy and yourself, Paul, talked to a responding officer that went to that scene. Do you think confirmation bias played a role in this case?
I think there's that possibility. You know, they had responded out to that very same mansion, you know, out there in Coronado, for a young boy who had gone over and ultimately had died. But
so y'all press pause. What you're looking at now and what he's describing right now is the crime scene from when the little boy went over the banister. So that chandelier that you saw on the ground, that was what they said that he grabbed a hold of when he flipped over the banister and pulled it out the ceiling, and it collapsed to the floor. So the thought process here is that Rebecca unalived the little boy, and the brother unalived Rebecca in retribution for the little boy. Because after the 6-year-old went over the banister, he did not pass away right away. He actually went to the hospital. She did CPR on him. and he went into the hospital. He passed a few days later. She was said to allegedly have unalived herself before he passed away in the hospital. So he actually passed away after she was murdered. Although they said she committed. God, y'all, trying not to say these words. It's so stressful. Before she committed self-deletion, according to them. So these are those crime scene photos first.
At the time of Rebecca's death, he was still in a coma. But this first officer on the scene saw how despondent Rebecca was over, her boyfriend's son's injuries. And so when they get the call 2 days later about a woman hanging at that same location, he did say, we knew what that was all about, and that there you have that. And I've been on that side. You go, okay, this makes sense. You have a family tragedy, and then you see somebody else who's so broken up about it that they decide to take their own life.
Confirmation bias, definitely, because she was, this was an officer who was at both crime scenes, so he has a really unique perspective. And he was at the first crime scene. He saw how bad Rebecca was. I mean, she was, and you can hear her on the 911 call. She is inconsolable. She's wailing. But she got herself together, and she was able to work through everything. When they got the call that there was a suicide and that somebody was found hanging, or there was even a death at the mansion, he told us everybody looked at each other and said, yeah, that's a suicide. She just committed suicide. So they all went in with that mindset that this was a suicide. So when they're driving in, that's all they're thinking about is this is a suicide, as opposed to there could be something nefarious at play.
The Zahau family attorney argued there was evidence that pointed to Rebecca being sexually assaulted. Can you talk about some of the evidence and what he argued?
The Zahau family attorney had a theory in the civil case in that Rebecca was sexually assaulted. And to support that theory, he pointed to one of the knives that was found there at the scene that had blood all the way around the handle of it. And so it wasn't blood that got there just by swiping one side or another. It was all the way around. And so his argument was that that was used to penetrate her, and that's obviously a sexual assault.
Was there a piece of evidence that stuck out to you the most?
Honestly, the biggest piece of evidence to me were the text messages and were the conversation that she had with her sister, because nothing in either of those pointed to somebody that would have wanted to commit suicide. Now, the sheriff's department would then say, well, we're going to throw all that out the window because she gets the voicemail about Max not being able to walk and talk again, and that's what sends her, unfortunately, literally over the edge. But those are the two things that I have the hardest time dealing with. We were able to go through a series of experiments looking at, physically it could have been done. Why she would be naked, that's the biggest thing that Lonnie had, is why would you be naked, especially on your period, and hang yourself like that in a semi-public place? That just doesn't make sense. No woman would do that. Why would, there's certain things that a woman can look at from a perspective that guys wouldn't think of.
Is it important to have female investigators when it's a case like this, where you're trying to establish a woman's state of mind?
I think in this type of case where you're really trying to understand what was going on in Rebecca's life, and see it through her eyes at this time, you need to be able to look at it from a female perspective, because that's who she was. I mean, just a very tiny detail. The noose around her neck was over her hair, not underneath it. And every woman will tell you that if you put something around your neck, a scarf or whatever, the first thing you're going to do if you have long hair is you flip it out. You don't leave it underneath the scarf. Now, men will never think about that. That will never occur to them. And so just little things like that, when you're looking at this evidence, say, wait a minute, what about that? Does that make sense? That's the female perspective that you bring to it.
There's just so many things that we were able to find that just didn't match up. I think physically it could have been done, but I did not see it in the victimology.
Let's talk about the writing on the door. Is there any significance to that being in third person that stuck out to you?
Exactly. She was a very verbose writer. She was a very flowery writer, and she also had beautiful handwriting. Yes, this was paint and a very viscousy type paint that she was writing on the door. But why would you, if you were somebody that wrote a long way and you journaled, why would you only choose something that small to be your last words? You know, it just, that doesn't make sense either. So there's a lot of things there that just don't make sense for being a suicide. But again, there's also a lack of physical evidence there that would point to, you know, somebody else being there.
I wouldn't say there's one piece. It's always going to be a totality of the circumstances, you know, both from the investigative side as well as what's happening at the crime scene. And when I take a look at things, you know, the initial thought when I saw those photos was like, there's no way she could have gotten herself over that railing off the balcony while she's bound like that. But we did the experimentation. We showed that she actually could. I mean, these were the big issues that initially, intuitively, I'm just going, I just don't see that occurring. But as we worked through this case, we're showing, okay, the big issues are not going to tell us because she could have done it to herself or an offender could have done it. Those big issues aren't differentiating, is this suicide versus homicide? That's when I start digging into the finer details. And that's when little things like the distribution of paint on the noose. I mean, it's showing that exactly where a hand would grasp in order to tie and pull on the noose, the hand had a significant amount of black paint that would wrap around the rope. Yet Rebecca's hands are lacking that black paint. And I was like, that is inconsistent. And there's all sorts of these black paint transfers on all the pieces of the rope, the ankle bindings, the wrist bindings, as well as the noose. And then the binding behind, the hands being bound behind the back. You know, the San Diego Sheriff's Office had a female deputy kind of replicate this, what is a complex knot, to show how that could be tied in front, an arm slipped out, and then the arm slipped back in, and then kind of cinched up. But when I really looked at the knot in that experiment that they did, it did not replicate the bindings or the knot to Rebecca. All it did was approximate. And as I tried to replicate Rebecca's knot, and bindings, I was recognizing I don't think she could have done this to herself. So there was another inconsistency there. You know, so there's one thing after another. As I looked through these smaller details, I'm going, this is not consistent with her doing this to herself. And am I ready to say this is for sure a homicide? I'm not ready to say that. But what I am saying is there are unanswered questions, and they're big enough questions that this case needs to stay open, and those questions need to be satisfactorily answered before there is an official ruling.
Do most cases, whether it's suicide or homicide, have these many lingering questions?
No, it's usually pretty straightforward. You have some, and I would get contacted all the time by people, and I still do, saying, you know, my son, they said he was committed suicide. I don't think he would ever do it. And then you look at the case and you look at the situation, you're just like, it's probably a suicide. Nobody wants to believe that. But there's 45,000 suicides in America. There's about 15,000, 16,000 homicides. So it's triple the number. But that also means that it's a convenient way if you want to stage a crime scene. And there were a lot of things at this crime scene that looked, or this scene, because it wasn't considered a crime, that looked like they possibly could have been staged.
If Paul Holes is the responding officer on this case, would you have investigated or tested things differently?
Yes, this case would have been treated as a bona fide whodunit homicide based on what I was seeing in those initial crime scene photos. I do think that the responding authorities, they put homicide level resources on this case. They did. They had crime scene investigators come out. They did a tremendous amount of forensic work. But I do think that there was a bias that everybody had going into this scene. And I think that bias has just kind of continued. And I can't say that their formal ruling is wrong at this point, but I will say that I think there's more that they need to do.
Do you think that the investigators made a mistake in getting her state of mind?
Absolutely, because it was to fit their narrative. So they they only cherry picked the things that would fit their narrative, and that was this text message, as opposed to all these other text messages where she seems completely in control and she's making plans, which are two things that suicidal people normally don't do. And then they decided to pick these other things, and these other things were her sounding like she might be a candidate to take her own life.
Given your experience as a prosecutor, even in California, do you think that this case ever could have been taken as a criminal case?
A criminal case has the highest standard of proof, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. And that's a very high standard of proof. So to be able to get to that, you need substantial evidence.
As far as the evidence goes, I think that without a confession, there's no way anybody would ever be able to get a conviction, just because of the lack of physical evidence. And also one of the reasons that our criminal justice system right now, and especially our jury system, is always looking for that physical evidence, and there's just none there. And Paul talks about this. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. I think it's just one of those cases where we're not going to get answers unless we get some sort of a confession.
I think that you need to be able to watch the whole process that we go through, because it's never, when you're doing an investigation, especially one this multi-layered, it's never a straight shot. It's never like everything fits into place and you're just like, okay, boom, there we go, we're done. It is a meandering path. And you get some things that push you one way and you get some things that push you another way. And that's the process that we go on. And I think it's important to do that, because that means you're covering all of the different sides of the case.
This is not a chargeable case, but doesn't mean that you don't have suspicion. And that's where you go investigatively. You follow those suspicions and figure out, where does the evidence lead? Where does the investigation lead? Do I now have enough in order to be able to say, yes, I as an investigator have probable cause?
So that was them kind of talking about her. Kind of learning about her. So what do you guys think? I'm about to open up the comments really quick. What do you guys think? Do you think it was the brother? Do you think it was self-deletion? What do you guys think actually happened in this situation? Because this one is crazy. There has always been different beings and forces among us, and this world is truly chaotic. That's absolutely true. And I think we're seeing it more and more because people are tampering in things that they shouldn't be tampering in. Like the video we did the other day about them doing the love spells on each other and all this extra foolishness, playing with witchcraft and Ouija boards and all of that. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely chaotic. I want you guys to take a listen to this 911 call that Adam Shacknai made when he allegedly found her body. So check this out.
I got a girl hung herself in the guest house of, it's on Ocean Boulevard across from the hotel, same place that you came and the kid yesterday.
Okay, sir, what is the address?
I'm not sure,
Is she still alive?
I don't know.
Adam Shacknai testified that he climbed onto a broken patio table to sever the rope that was hanging her.
I cut her down, I had her in one arm and cut with the other.
You can hear him grunting on that 911 call.
Okay, so what are you doing now?
First of all, he looks like an unsub. I don't care what nobody says. He looks like an unsub. He looks touched. He doesn't show any ounce of feeling in listening to this again. There's no way, if I was a part of this, if I was there when this happened, and maybe guys are different. Maybe that's what it is. So my guys in the comment, my bottle boys, let me know if it's different for guys seeing a scene like that. Like you walk into your house and you see somebody hanging from the banister and you're in court reliving that moment, are you going to show remorse? Is there going to be a sign of empathy, sympathy, something coming from you guys? I know I would feel something, unless I was guilty. But let's continue.
If I had to speculate, I'd say it's probably the sound of me cutting her down and at some point jumping off the table.
He's the one who called police.
Yeah, a girl hung herself in the guest house of, it's on Ocean Boulevard across from the hotel, same place that you came and got the cake yesterday.
Okay, sir, what is the address?
I'm not sure,
Is she still alive?
I don't know.
Adam Shacknai testified that he climbed onto a broken patio table to sever the rope that was hanging her.
I cut her down. I had her in one arm and cut with the other.
You can hear him grunting on that 911 call.
Okay, so what are you doing now?
So here's my thing, right? Few things. Number one, he didn't even refer to her by her name. What the hell you mean, the girl? The girl hung her. The girl? This is your brother's longtime girlfriend. What do you mean, the girl? Then he moved the body. I'm just trying to understand how they deduce that this was a self-deletion. I get it, it's all circumstantial, and I'm getting ready to go through the crime scene evidence with you guys so that you can hear exactly what they had a problem with, because I did the research. I told y'all, when I do these stories, even on my Hennessy zone, I gotta know the details. So I'm gonna get ready to drop the link. But you guys, if you want to come up and discuss this case, hold on one second. What you're seeing right now is different crime scene photos. That was taken when the detective showed up. So that's what you're looking at while I'm getting the link. Okay. So for the crime scene evidence, right? Evidence 1, she was found naked with her feet bound, her hands tied behind her back, and a t-shirt stuffed in her mouth. Got it? Not only that, the autopsy would later reveal that she had tape residue and blood on her legs. Now we're going to get into that in a second. I need you to remember she had blood on her legs. The family attorney stated there has never been a reported self-deletion of a female like this. So the level of detail that she, quote unquote, put into her own self-deletion has never been seen before. There was no note, no suicide note, no nothing, right? Bound hands and feet. She was gagged, a noose around her neck. She was naked. There was blood down her leg. Then there was a shirt wrapped 3 times around her neck. There was a rope tied to the bed with neat slip knots and square knots. So she took out the time to tie a fancy rope. I've just never heard of anyone who's getting ready to unalive themselves going through so much detail, if that makes sense, to make it happen. Most of the time, they want to do it quickly so they don't change their mind. With all of this that she supposedly did to herself in order to prepare to do this, that would have been enough time for me to say, yeah, nah, maybe not. What do you guys think? It just, even from the aspect itself, it does not make sense. A cold case investigator said, for Zahau to have unalived herself as described by the San Diego Sheriff's Department, she would have had to cut several pieces of rope, bind her feet, tie a noose and put it around her neck, along with a t-shirt she had shoved in her mouth. And once, so you gotta understand, she put the t-shirt in her mouth, she gagged herself. So, child, never mind. Let's keep going. And once that was finished, she would have to go through a very complex series of steps to try to tie this complex knot around both wrists and get that behind her back. So her hands were not found in front of her back, they were found behind her back in a special knot, not just a regular one. And on top of all of that, she would have to hop over the balcony or throw herself off of it. So that was the first thing, right? The second thing were the injuries to her neck. So she was found with injuries to her neck, and some questioned whether those injuries were severe enough to indicate that she had hanged herself. So cold case investigator Paul Holes stated that for him, the biggest thing in his mind was the amount of damage to her neck. He said if this true long drop execution hanging, if it was true, he would expect a lot more trauma, if not near decapitation, broken neck, internal decapitation, or full decapitation after this victim had dropped 9 to 10 feet. He also says the forces on the body are immense in an execution-style hanging. He believes the evidence seems more consistent with manual strangulation rather than hanging. So, famed pathologist Cyril Wecht also questioned the cause of death after conducting a second autopsy, and he said that she was strangled and was deceased or dying before she was lowered off the deck. Keith Greer, an attorney who represented Zahau's family in the recent civil trial, told Oxygen. And they also said, and when I say lowered off the deck, it is because had she gone over the deck on her own, then gravity would have carried her down full force. It's a 9-foot drop. It would have either ripped her head off or partially decapitated her. Greer said there was not a single dislocated vertebrae in her neck, which he said doesn't support the theory of hanging. But then there goes on, and she had several hemorrhages on the side of her head. The second autopsy revealed that she had hemorrhages. I can't talk, y'all. I ain't high enough. Maybe that's it. She had hemorrhages under the surface of the scalp. It also contended that she suffered 4 blows to the head that left her fully or partially unconscious. After reviewing the initial autopsy, Weck said he didn't believe the injuries could have been caused by hitting branches during the fall. Even if her scalp hit bushes, it would not produce the type of hemorrhage that she had. Number 1, he stated, how do you get bruises on the top of the head as the body is in a vertical position while falling down? Then there's the thing about sexual assault. Remember I told you keep the whole blood on the leg thing in your mind? They said it's important to note that Rebecca was on her period when this happened. Press pause. You see the picture on the screen. If she's on her period and there's blood dripping down her leg, wouldn't there be more blood on the carpet? If she did all of this while she was nude, wouldn't there be blood on the carpet? Why is there no blood on the carpet if she was on her period? She was found with blood trickling down her leg, but there's no blood on the carpet. You see the carpet photos, there's no blood. There will be blood at that door where she wrote the note. There will be blood where she was standing to put the knot around the bed. There would be blood on the balcony. There would be blood on the banister if she was indeed on her period. Do you see any blood on that ground? But there's blood around the handle of the knife, which you could tell was from her being penetrated. But it's nowhere else in that room. What's wrong with our detectives is what I want to know. Somebody please get Gorin on the phone from Law and Order Criminal Intent. Please. Somebody please call the BAU at this point. Just fire all the rest of them, except that lady from First 48, because she seemed to know what she's doing. But fire everybody else, because this is insane. I heard somebody pop up into the background. I thought I heard a pop in. I thought I had somebody backstage. So how? Please tell me how. And it was found all around the handle, so they knew it had been inserted into her. Because it's nowhere else in the room. A second larger knife was found in the bedroom. Rebecca's fingerprints were found on the blade of the knife, and a mixture of DNA from at least 2 people on that knife, but apparently not enough for a comparison. Apparently not enough for a comparison. Well, hey, Niecy, how are you, love?
Hey, Pooh.
Apparently not enough for a comparison. Turn your TV down. How are you, love?
Oh. Hey, Pooh. First of all, I want to say anything we say on this chat that we talk about is allegedly. Okay, let's put that on the floor. And we also do pray to the Most High to protect us also at the same time. But I think a lot of these murders and deaths that come about, probably like 20 to 30% are sacrifices, and because a lot of people do have altars and they misabuse the altars that they set up and start doing other ritualistic things, which causes portals to open and so many different demonic spirits and entities to enter into this world. So I'm just saying, we living in a chaotic and distressful, delusional world, and I just want to go back to where we came from.
I want to go back too.
I'm just saying, whenever you say pack up, you ain't got to, I'm the first one out the door.
Yeah, because this is crazy. When I saw this story, I was like, my mouth was hanging open.
I'm trying to tell you, I'd rather live in a cabin with the lions, tigers, and bears instead of be living amongst these people. I'm trying to tell you what God loves. We got a lot of, listen, from the time that we used to grow up until now is totally different from the world. I remember when my grandparents didn't used to close and lock their doors. Do you hear me?
Right.
And if you came up on the property, he got a shotgun for you. What you doing here? And you ain't called and said you was coming.
Absolutely.
So that's my only thing. That's all I wanted to say is that this demonic stuff, I try to stay far away from it as much as I can. But sometimes the company you keep can bring on spirits and pass them on to you. That's why I said once I see that you're going through it, I'll holler at you. I just think about the good memories we had and keep it pushing.
Definitely. And that's why you got to be careful what you marry into and get attached to and fall in love with and all that as well, because
Siemens and fluid transformations are some bad motherfuckers. I'm trying to tell you, ecstasy and lust. Ooh, we baby.
Because this girl got attached to something. she got attached to some people. Number one, they had money because her boyfriend was rich. He had money. Now the brother didn't have any money.
Okay, but see, money cannot buy happiness, loyalty, or respect. Okay, you can have all the money in the world and can be the most miserablest person in the world. Sometimes I be feeling like, as long as I ain't got no shut off notices in my mailbox, I'm all right.
All right.
Because you don't know, you got a big old house, you don't know what's going on in the north and the west and the east and the south. Oh, hell no, I'm straight on that. I need to know what's going on.
But a lot of people don't care about that these days. That's how I know this world has changed, because everybody is just in it for the money. They don't care about what's attached. They don't care about what could happen once I get it. All they want is the money. Just show me the money. Get rich or die trying and all of that. Then you end up in situations like this. You know what I think of? This could have been Cassie.
Listen. All I'm saying is it's more than one Cassie. It's other ghosts with different names and all of that too. And they're called spirits. And ain't nobody got time for y'all to be dropping off y'all spirits at other people's houses or around them. Okay? That's all I'm saying. I ain't do nothing to you. Don't be leaving your stuff at my door. But y'all, I got the grandkids. I love y'all, Champagne gang. But Champagne, I'm over here pouting. I need to get my membership together. Okay, Miss Ma'am? So we're gonna have to figure out how to do this.
Okay.
All right. So for real.
I sent your email on your I sent you an email.
I know I sent it back to you. When you get a chance, read your email, babe. But I'm gonna get off here because I don't want to wake the grandkids up.
Okay, love.
I love y'all.
Love you more. So absolutely. So what do you think? Do you guys think that this case is a case of suicide? Do you think this is a case of somebody had some money and was able to make some stuff go away? Do you think the police helped cover this up? Do you think it was just poor detective work? Well, can't even just say poor detective work, because even the medical examiner ruled it a suicide. Check out this really quick.
How's it going? Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing good, doing good.
How are you guys? This is Dr. Cynthia Burr from USC. She's a biomedical engineer.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Lonnie. Hi, Lonnie. Nice to meet you.
I'm Billy.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. After meeting with Keith, we're realizing that based on the way Rebecca was hung, her injuries just don't add up. So we're doing an experiment so we can see if we can replicate the same injuries that were found in Rebecca's report.
We've brought in a crash test dummy to do this test today. This one we chose because it most closely represents the size that Rebecca was when this incident occurred. We have her at exactly 100 pounds, which was Rebecca's weight.
Would she be able to be dropped in like an execution versus being completely inverted or maybe somewhere in between?
Yeah, we'll be able to do all of that. So we already have her kind of the way her legs and arms were tied. We have all that kind of set up already. And so at this point, it's up to how we actually position her up there in terms of how she'll fall.
Okay.
And she is weighted the way a normal human being would be weighted. So hopefully like the center of gravity is about the same as what Rebecca's would have been.
Okay.
And then we also have a pressure sensor around her neck underneath the skin here so that we can measure the amount of pressure that the ligature might have caused on her neck.
Going into this experiment, there's been a lot of question about this long drop hanging. Here you have a 100-pound woman who fell 9 feet. That's a lot of forces that are going up into this very small structure. Having reconstructed this crime scene, we can see if we can replicate what actually happened with Rebecca in this hanging scenario.
So right in here, we set up the bed, positioned exactly in the same spot as the bed at Spreckles. And the rope, exactly how it was found at the crime scene. According to the police reports, the bed moved 7 inches.
It was just a little askew.
When we drop the dummy, we're going to see how far the bed moves from the drop.
And as far as the carpet goes, you've got the carpet. Do you have a padding underneath the carpet?
We actually found the same type of carpet, and we put padding underneath it with floor, and we actually know the the wood that was under the original house. We replicated all of that.
This is the actual bed frame too, so.
Yeah. And then we have the rope going all the way out here to the dummy, which we'll push over the balcony, which is the exact same height.
The first test that we're going to try to do is a standard execution style hanging. The dummy is going to be dropped feet first. All the forces are vertical, and it's tied to the bed so we can replicate what actually happened at the crime scene.
All right. Okay, you guys ready?
Ready?
Yeah, all right,
Okay.
let's do it.
Okay, you guys ready?
Ready?
Yeah, all right,
Okay.
let's do it.
She actually hit the ground.
So how far did the bed move?
39 inches.
39 inches? Police said 7 inches.
So because the bed moved more than the 7 inches, we're now to the point where we're touching the ground instead.
Interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
In the first experiment, with the feet dropped straight down, just a vertical drop, the bed moved much, much farther than what actually happened at the crime scene. So this told me this is likely not the way that Rebecca went over the railing.
The bed moved a lot more than what we expected. So that's of concern. We had the exact length of rope. We had the exact bed. I think the next one we should do is maybe inverted head first and see what happens.
So we're going to see what this looks like now by her going over, leaning over like that.
Okay.
The bed moved 21 inches. That's really strange.
You know, whenever you do experiments like this, sometimes you get questions answered and sometimes you get more questions. And in this case, the question that kept popping up was, why was the bed moving so much further than the 7 inches that the police marked in the crime scene photographs?
Okay, let's get the dummy back up.
Yeah. So we're going to see what this looks like if it was somebody that was carrying her and throwing her over, and what that would look like.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. How far did the bed move?
Almost 40 inches.
There was nothing like this at the crime scene. No, at the crime scene, it was 7 inches. 7 inches would be just right over here.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. We got the same carpet. We got foam underneath it. We have the same force as we saw in the police photos, that the bed only moved 7 inches. But the bed moved a lot. So, you know, I don't know what that means. The bed moved 29 inches that time.
Oh, wow. We're still not replicating the movement of the bed.
In each of our experiments, the bed moved way more than 7 inches when we dropped the dummy off the balcony. And what that tells us is that Rebecca might have been placed differently and might have been hanged differently than what was determined in the initial report.
Okay.
Well,
I think we created more questions than answers. I'm sorry.
today Keith is going to be bringing in a binder with all the autopsy photos, and that's absolutely huge for me. He was the attorney that represented the Zahau family in their civil suit against Adam Shacknight.
Now, I want you guys to pay attention to these ropes. I'm going to rewind it just a little bit. Y'all see this rope on her feet? How she do that to herself? And the same rope was around her hands, which were behind her back. So, please help me understand how she accomplished this on her own. And still managed, after she tied that together, to walk to the balcony and throw herself off. Now you got to understand, at this point, when she makes it to the balcony, She's already bound her feet. She's already bound her hands. She's already butt naked. She's already put a t-shirt down her throat. And she's put a noose around her neck and tightened it. How? Please, who goes through this much to take yourself out? I've never, why? Most people who are going to unalive themselves by hanging generally just do it. What's the purpose in binding your feet and your hands behind your back? As if in the front wouldn't have done. I'm so perplexed. This has me flued out completely because I'm trying to understand how the police deduce that she did this to herself even without fingerprints, because we're going to get into that in a second. But even without any fingerprints, how could you look at this crime scene and all of this evidence, just look at her body alone and say, oh yeah, she did that to herself? Somebody knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that erased a whole bunch of stuff to make sure that nobody got in trouble for this. Because what?
Absolutely huge for me. He was the attorney that represented the Zahau family in their civil suit against Adam Shacknight. This is something that he normally wouldn't do because of the sensitivity of some of the photos that he has, but because of the expertise that I can apply, he's agreed to allow me to take a look at those. So hopefully I can further the case based on what I observed.
Good afternoon.
Hey Keith, how's it going?
How you doing, Paul?
Press pause again. Hold on. I need y'all. I want to see if I can get it right at the point where, right there. You see her hands? How? How? I need someone to drop in to play the devil's advocate for me and drop in the comments and tell me how she was able to tie this behind her back and put her hand in it and tighten it by herself. Please tell me. Seeing this alone, even if you didn't pay attention to the intricate knotting of the one on the feet, the one in the hand should have been enough to say, nah, ain't no way. No one's going through this much trouble to get rid of themselves. Usually when you see someone who wants to self-harm, it's jumping off something. If it is a hanging, it's just a hanging. If it's a pow, it's just that. They're not going to tie their hands behind their back and put it in a contraption that if an alarm goes off, the trigger fires, and no one's going through that much trouble. That I know, because now I'm gonna have to do the research. This is not okay. This girl did not get any justice for what was allegedly done to her. Oh Lord, I don't know.
So we can see if we can replicate the same
Questions answered, and sometimes you get more questions.
for me. He was the attorney that represented the Zahau family in their civil suit against Adam Shacknai. This is something that he normally wouldn't do because of the sensitivity of some of the photos that he has, but because of the expertise that I can apply, he's agreed to allow me to take a look at those. So hopefully I can further the case based on what I observed.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Keith. How's it going?
How you doing, Paul? Good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
This is the entire autopsy, every photograph that was produced by the medical examiner's department, the sheriff's.
That's excellent.
A lot of things I'd like you to take a peek at. These aren't available to the public,
sure,
but they're important to look at to understand what happened here. Important document, obviously, the medical examiner's report.
Yeah.
Summary of all the findings during the autopsy, photographs from the actual autopsy itself. And this is where he comes up with the ultimate conclusion that this was a suicide.
I'm seeing some things that stand out. Where I'll start right now is after they've removed the noose from around her neck. I'm seeing a fair amount of contact transfer of paint onto that rope. In fact, a very heavy deposit that's right there close to the knot. If Rebecca's doing this herself, then she should have something on the working surfaces of her hands that is going to be touching the rope as she's tying it and getting it around her neck. The photographs of her hands are showing really an absence of paint. That does not seem like she would be wiping her hands or being able to clean her hands during the process of committing suicide. The shirt itself was much more complicated. I was somewhat stunned. The knot is tied in the back of her head. To remove this, they had to cut through 3 different lengths of the shirt in order to be able to take this off. What purpose does this shirt serve to Rebecca in the mindset of her committing suicide? But also, what purpose does it serve for an offender? Well, the fact that it's in the mouth, that is something to be used as a gag. I have a hard time seeing Rebecca doing that to herself.
So here's the thing, right? And hold on, let me go to these comments. Niecy B, I think you kind of hit it on the head, because Jonah Shacknai, which was her boyfriend, he is an American pharmaceutical executive. He was the founder of Illustrious Pharmaceuticals and was the founder, chairman, and CEO of Medicis Pharmaceutical Corporation. He also served as chief aide to the U.S. House of Representatives Committee for Health Policy. So, like I said, he knew somebody that knew somebody that knew somebody. He also served on the commission on the federal drug approval process and the National Council on Drugs. He was a member of the National Arthritis and Musculoskeletal and Skin Disease Advisory Council and on the U.S.-Israel Science and Technology Commission. He was a senior partner at the law firm Royer, Shacknai, and Millay from 82 to 88. And the firm represented multinational pharmaceutical companies, medical device makers, and 4 major industry trade associations. He founded his pharmaceutical company in 1988. In 2012, he left his positions as CEO and chairman when Valiant Pharmaceuticals purchased Medicis, which was his company, for $2.6 billion. Yeah, drop the in the chat for me. Because there it is again. He's high up. He is. So did he protect his brother? Allegedly. Is it possible that he knew his brother did this and he protected his brother? You know, the weed can make you the best detective, as the kids say on the G. Absolutely, because anytime you put US and drugs together, you got, child, this is a lot. I feel so sorry for her and for her family. Because another crazy thing is, right, there was a lack of DNA evidence. There was, hold on one second. So there was no DNA evidence except Rebecca's. And it was odd to them because there wasn't even any DNA in areas of the home where there should have been. It was claimed that surfaces had been wiped down to eliminate possible DNA remnants. No DNA, no fingerprints on just about everything associated with the crime. Hole stated, which is the cold case investigator, it's all the hallmarks of a staged crime scene. Adam's DNA was never found on the knife that he used to cut Rebecca down. I don't know why that didn't insinuate that he was possibly wearing gloves. That's what I'm kind of trying to understand. It was like nobody put two and two together in this scenario, and it's so concerning for me. Did they just get tired and frustrated and say, like, not today? No investigation will be done today. Look at this. There's no blood anywhere. Again, I say, if she was in, how about maybe the better question is, was she actually on her period, or was the bleeding that was running down her leg from being penetrated by the knife? Because there's no blood anywhere. Look at the floor. There's nothing there. This is the knot that was tied around the bed. Look at all the detail that went into tying this knot. The banister. If she sat on this banister to flip over, even if there was blood on her leg when she flipped over this banister, why is there no blood on the banister? There should be at least a droplet, if not from her leg hitting it or rubbing against it when she flipped over. Nothing. Now, this one might be a little hard to see. Hold on. But that's a footprint that's being marked off right there. So that is a boot print that was on that ground. This is one of the knives. Footprints. If she did this to herself, why are there footprints? And I get it. The problem as to why this is circumstantial is because there's no fingerprints. So none of this would hold up in court and adamantly say that Adam was the one that did this. There's nothing to prove it. It was like the perfect crime, allegedly, if he did this. The yellow boxes that you see on the pictures, those are all footprints. And then it could be argued, well, those were probably there before. This is their mansion. This is what the full layout of the mansion looks like. This is her bedroom. This is crazy, and it's sad. And it's cases like this that should make the police department sit back and look and say, are we doing our best to investigate these crimes? It makes you wonder how many cases were marked self-deletions when they were actually homicides. That's what stuff like this makes me question when I look into it, when I think about it, when I watch Investigation Discovery. It makes you ask questions. And this case right here gives you more questions than answers. It's like every time you think you come up with a possible answer to one thing, it triggers 20 questions in another direction. Now, when I first covered this story on Inky Noir, I didn't see the clip about her being on her period. So the whole menstrual blood thing, I didn't even have that part in the video. And now hearing that now, it brings up 20 trillion more questions. And each set of questions leads to the police looking like they didn't do a good job investigating this case, even if not attempting to answer all of the questions. Not to mention the knots that were used to bind her. Those were knots that Adam Shacknai, which is the brother, the one who found her, his job as a tugboat captain, gave him experience in tying these kind of knots. So what? He taught her how to do it and she just chose to do it to herself? They don't think it's odd that the same knots that he uses on his tugboats was the same knot that was used in this situation? Then one of the most alarming of all is a neighbor named Marsha Allison. She was in her 70s at the time. She lived 2 doors down from the mansion. She said about 11:30 that night, she heard a young woman screaming 3 times, "Help me, help me, help me." And she said it was coming from the direction of the mansion. But the sheriff's department dismissed it because she said the lady also told them that when she went outside, she saw kids outside playing. So they dismissed what she thought she heard, saying that it was probably just kids. So it just seems like everything in this case is being dismissed as coincidental. Oh, it just so happened. Oh, it just so happened. You know, he just happened to walk in there and see her body hanging. He just happened to disturb the crime scene and cut her down. He just happened. And he didn't cut her down from in her room. He cut her down from the ground, because remember he said he pulled a stool up or a table and then reached up and cut her down. So there would have been no need for if those are his boot prints, to have been on her balcony, which is in her bedroom. Did they even test his boots to see if his boots match the prints? I have so many questions. So many. But drop in the comments and let me know what you think about this one. If you think it was fate or fury, do you think there's the possibility that he did this because he felt like she unalived or at least put his nephew in the hospital? Could this have been allegedly a case of retribution in his mind? Do you think it was possible that she was behind what happened to young Max Shacknai a few days before her untimely demise? Do you think that could be possible? Because just as many questions as there are regarding her death, because he did pass away a day or so after she was unalived, there's just as many questions in his death. And the only one that was there when he passed away was Rebecca. And now the only person that was there when she passes away is Jonah's brother, Adam. So drop in the comments to let me know what you think about this one. Because this one can definitely take you on a roller coaster of emotions and confusion and perplexities. Drop in the comments to let me know what you think. Consider joining the Champagne Gang and the FizzFam. I also wanted to let you guys know, because I did mention it earlier. Nope, that's not the one. Hold on, where'd it go? Hold on, y'all. Let me find it. Let me re-upload it. It just disappeared. Yeah, I am just getting the hang of StreamYard, and StreamYard be doing some weird stuff sometimes. Some real weird stuff. Give me 1 second. It'll be up here. Here we go. We just started our Patreon on today. So this is what our Patreon looks like. It's called The Empress Uncensored. Grown discussion, sip, savor, and spill with champagne secrets. So I think what we're going to do is start having our panel discussions on Patreon, and have our chat discussions on YouTube. So when we finish a video, if we want to chat about it, then we'll go over to Patreon so that we can be uncensored and unfiltered, because there's a lot of things we cannot say on YouTube where Patreon gives you more freedom. So this is our Patreon. So definitely consider joining the Champagne Gang and the FizzFam. We would absolutely love to have you over here. Come join us in the Champagne Room, located in the chalet. It's a private section just for us. Consider hitting that like button for me. Hit the subscribe button. Also the notification bell, so you'll be notified when we jump into whichever sector we decide to jump into for another show. One of these days, I am going to give you guys a proper introduction to the channel, because there are so many sectors. There's funny sectors. There's some partial animation sectors. There's the empowerment sector, the Hennessy zone. We deal with our hard topics there. We have our night secrets sector for those who like listening to the sound of rain and positive affirmations and ASMR type sounds so that you can go to sleep. We have a sector for that as well. So consider joining the channel. We've also unlocked our memberships. So consider grabbing one of those memberships. We did have 3 tiers, but I did drop that down to 2, only because we did start our Patreon. So instead of having 3 over here and 1 over there, it's 2 over here and 1 over there. So consider joining up with us. And if you're not sure just yet, don't worry about it. We'll leave the light on for you. Until next time, Champagne Gang, always remember, if it doesn't cause you to elevate, it's causing you to depreciate. Now raise those glasses, clink, and let's drink till we meet again. Ta-ta.